Welcome back to the Injured List podcast. I'm your host, Brian Scott, bringing you expert insight straight from inside the medical tent. Week 8 of the NFL season left us with plenty to talk about, more injuries, more question marks, and of course, more headaches for fantasy football managers everywhere. In this episode, we're putting on the gloves and heading into the triage, breaking down the most impactful injuries from Week 8 and giving you an early look at what to expect heading into Week 9. We'll discuss who's likely to miss time, who's trending toward return, and how these injuries could shake up both real-life rosters and your fantasy lineups. So if you're trying to separate the playable from the questionable, you're in the right place. Let's get into it and head inside the medical tent for your Week 8 injury recap and Week 9 fantasy forecast.
Please welcome the host of the Injured List podcast, Brian Scott. This episode is brought to you by ILP Sports Consultants, where athletes and organizations get personalized injury guidance and support. Learn more at ilpsports.com.
All right, first, a little housekeeping to thank our sponsors for helping us keep the show going. First off, the Injured List podcast is powered by ILP Sport Consultants, expert sports injury concierge services. We help get you back on the field so you can be at the top of your game. For more information, visit ilpsports.com and check it out, guys. That's my own company. I'm here to help you. Next up, we got SeatGeek. Use code InjuredListPod and receive $20 off your first purchase with SeatGeek. Get tickets to your favorite shows or sporting events. That code, InjuredListPod. Concussions in sport are a big problem, but they don't have to be. Use NeuroGuard Plus mouthguards to not only reduce the risk of concussion, but increase performance. Use code ILPSports to get 10% off your purchase. Start drafting faster with Fast Draft Fantasy, the fastest best ball game on the planet. Use code TSS for up to $50 deposit match when you sign up with our discount code. Well, let's get started. We're going to start with the quarterback position. We've got some players last week that we thought were going to play that ended up not playing, and then we've got some guys that popped up late in the week. Number one, Lamar Jackson. I thought for sure he'd be playing with this hamstring injury. It didn't sound serious when it first occurred, and then lo and behold, they had a bye week, and he started practicing in a limited fashion early last week, and then considered day-to-day, but he ended up not playing. Now, that kind of caught me by surprise. I thought for sure we'd see him. Turns out this hamstring may be a little bit more serious than we thought originally. He's still considered day-to-day. We'll see if he's able to rack up some more practice time. I would expect to see him get at least 1 to 2 consecutive full practice sessions in before getting cleared to play. That's my guess. I think that would be the wise thing to do for Lamar. We'll see how it plays out heading into Week 9. I still am expecting him to be ready. However, they may be being extra cautious here, which I can't blame them. Hamstring injuries, as we've spoken about numerous times, have a very high re-injury rate, and you don't want to be messing around with your star quarterback with a hamstring injury. Up next, Michael Penix. He came out of nowhere with a bone bruise that he sustained sometime during Week 7's game. Not sure exactly when that happened. It must have been toward the end of the game. The head coach said that he's currently going to be day-to-day heading into this week as we get close to Week 9. But if it's truly a bone bruise, that could be concerning. It could be more like a week-to-week thing, as we've seen with players like Brock Bowers, who's currently coming off a bone bruise. These can take several weeks to heal, so it really depends on the severity and the location of the bone bruise. We'll have to keep a close eye on this as it unfolds heading into Week 9. Next up, the big news was Carson Wentz apparently will be undergoing season-ending surgery on his non-throwing shoulder. According to Ian Rappaport, he was dealing with a shoulder dislocation, which resulted in a labral tear and a fracture to the socket, which is also known as a bony Bankart fracture. And this is a consequence of the injury. These are typically things that we see go hand in hand when you have a shoulder dislocation, sometimes even with a subluxation. Amazingly, he was able to play through this for like 2.5 games, which is kind of surprising. No wonder he was crunching and crouching down in pain the last couple of weeks. Luckily for him, is his non-throwing shoulder. However, this can be career threatening for him. He's an older player. He was really signed with Minnesota as an emergency backup and got thrusted in there when J.J. McCarthy went down with his high ankle sprain, which he's now even more available than ever. And we could see a return of J.J. McCarthy. What happens to Carson Wentz going forward is yet to be determined. The cherry on top here is that it's not his throwing shoulder, and it's not his knee or his leg. So it's something he can certainly bounce back from. The recovery will be difficult and long, but it should not hamper his ability to at least try and make a roster next season. Heading into the running back position, some big news, some disappointment. As you can see with my Giants hat on, it affected me quite a bit. Cam Scatabo went down with a nasty ankle fracture dislocation. I watched it happen in real time as I was watching the game from the comfort of my home. He's obviously out for the season. Apparently, he had season-ending surgery while he was still in Philadelphia. I assume that it was definitively fixed, meaning that it was a one-and-done procedure, that they were able to reduce the ankle and stabilize it in the necessary fashion. It sounded like that, at least from his post. The other thing that it could have been, which I don't think it was, which would have been worse, would have been if they had a problem reducing it and had to do it manually and place it in what's called an external fixator. I do not think that was the case. I have not seen any reports to indicate that. So that's good news. The timeline for him to get back on the football field could be as much as 6 to 9 months, possibly sooner. Regardless, he's not coming back this year, but it should not pose any major setbacks for him getting on the field for next season. Tough break for the rookie, was showing some real great skills and promise. Hopefully he'll pick up where he left off next year. Another guy we've been talking about for several weeks is Bucky Irving. Dealing with a foot, ankle, and shoulder injuries, we've been saying all along that he's likely not going to be ready until after their bye week, which is week 9. So I anticipate that he'll be ready for week 10. Now, he was never placed on IR, so there's no need to open a practice window or make any roster transactions. He can just jump right back into full practices with the team and start doing stuff right away. He does not need clearance or to be activated to the roster, so there's not as much red tape to hurdle there. I was surprised that he was never put on IR, but that could be just because the team was not wanting to waste an IR transaction or roster transaction in order to do that, given all their other injuries they've been dealing with throughout the year. However, he's had ample time now to recover, and we should see him back week 10. Quinshon Judkins, the running back for the Browns, sustained a shoulder AC joint sprain. Lucky for him and the team, they have a bye week 9, so this works in his favor. If it's a mild sprain, we should see him back and ready by week 10. If it's more significant, this could be a week-to-week thing. We've seen a lot of players deal with this over the years. Christian McCaffrey notoriously had this happen a couple years ago when he was coming off a high ankle sprain that kept him out for quite a while, and it cost him several weeks. Hopefully, it's not the issue with Quinshon Judkins. At the wide receiver position, a couple of guys caught me by surprise, in particular A.J. Brown with his hamstring injury. It seemed like it was a mild strain and that they were just keeping out for precautionary reasons. However, they had a favorable matchup against the hapless Giants, my hapless Giants, especially in the secondary. And so they sat him down, probably smartly, and now they got a week 9 bye, so it gives him an extra week to get ready. I think that will buy him, no pun intended, enough time, and we should see him week 10. He's very physically healthy normally. He's not missed much time throughout the years due to injury, and I suspect this is not a major injury, and we should see him back week 10. On a good note, we'll end today's episode. Christian Watson made his return less than a year out from his knee ACL rupture. He was nearing the end of his 21-day window, and they had to actually make a decision on him on Monday. Otherwise, he would have been season-ending IR. So they activated him on Friday. He made his return this weekend and had 4 catches for 85 yards and looked good. So kudos to him on a job well done. It's not over. He's still going to have to rehab and get himself back to game shape. That could take a few more weeks, but it's nice to see him out there contributing. That's all for today's episode, folks. For all your latest and greatest sports news and expert analysis, please tune into That Sports Podcast Network. Got a lot more news and updates to do on a lot more injured athletes throughout the week. So please follow the Injured List podcast on your social media. Listen to our podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcast episodes, and tune in as we provide more updates as the week unfolds and we get closer to kickoff. As always, stay safe, stay active, and stay off the injured list.